Hi, everyone. This feels so weird. It's just me. Just me today. It's just Jess. Anyone know that reference? Back in the day, Will and Grace? Oh, I haven't seen that show in forever, but it's a good one. Okay. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We are on episode 17. Oh my goodness. So Jenna cannot come today. And I was like, you know what? I got it. I got something I can talk about all by myself. So here I am, solo episode. And I'm really going to focus in on if you listened to episode 12 on the gift of resistance, I brought up, oh my resistance to meal planning and meal prepping. And we actually had kind of a few people reach out and be like, me too, or like a question about this or that. So I'm going to dive in to kind of this journey of resistance with meal planning, connections with human design, kind of that energetic piece that I'm really leaning into and like bringing awareness with, and then like the inspired action that I am shifting, experimenting with, doing things in a different way, and just will keep you updated throughout this experimentation, which is like all things in life. But if you're watching on YouTube, hello, hello again, just me. You're getting me in a little more of a raw form today because if you listened last week, we're moving. We're moving out of state. And so if you see behind me on YouTube, my bookshelf that is usually lovely decorated and brings me a lot of joy and a lot of smiles, it's empty. It is empty. There's nothing on it, but it's still here. And we will literally be packing up. Well, this weekend in real time, it will already have happened when you guys are listening to this live. David is moving and grooving downstairs, going through the garage. In a couple hours, will pick up my parents, and they have been so generous to fly over and help us pack for a few days. They are just the best. Shout out, mom and dad, because you know what? They're probably listening to this because they have listened to every episode. How fun is that? Hi, parents. Okay, friends. So that's kind of my update on, the evolution of life, and things are really shifting. You know what? I would actually be very curious because, like, my core girlfriends that I talk to, there's very much this energy, this feeling of like transition, and in a very positive way. Even if it's like, ooh, I know something's shifting. I know there's a change coming. Or it can be kind of my situation where it's like, we're moving, David's starting a new job. We're going to start planning for the wedding. Like there's I could go on multiple things, but I would be curious. And I would love for you guys to DM us on Instagram at While You Wait Podcast and let us know, like, transition. How does that feel for you right now? Are you experiencing certain transitions? Not at all. Like, I would just be like, would love to get a pulse of this community. If that's happening, and then if you want to like DM us and be like, this is what's happening, not cool with this, real cool with this, I would love to know. Would love to know. Okay, let me get into it, friends. I actually need to like timestamp myself because I think I could oddly talk about this topic for a very long time. Okay, so let's dive in. Like I mentioned in episode 12, The Gift of Resistance, which was a really fun episode to record with Jenna. If you haven't listened to it, I actually would say like pause on this one, go listen to it, and then come back here because I'm going to expand on that topic of resistance. But we had one of our listeners, Jamie. Hi, Jamie. If you're listening to this, I hope you find this helpful. She reached out and she asked if I could speak more specifically about my resistance to meal planning. And it's something that she really connected with, something that she has really struggled with for a long time. And in her words, feels like she hasn't made any progress on this front of meal planning. And boy, could I resonate with that. I was like, yes, I could speak more about this. And I identify with the words you are writing. So I imagine there's a lot of us in this camp. Um, and I just want to take a moment to kind of give more backstory on these layers of meal planning that I have identified for myself. Um, So to start with, a lot of you know, but if for those of you who don't, I have been a registered dietitian for over a decade. Yeah, over a decade. I had to do some mental math there for a second. Um, so with that, health, wellness, nutrition, biology, chemistry, all that good stuff, I feel pretty cozy. I feel pretty cozy in the science environment, in behavior change, in supportive foods, disease states, all that good stuff. And so, with that, I have had to do some investigations around the shame that has come up and developed over the years with me being like, I'm not a great meal planner. Wait, why am I identifying myself as that? So that's been one thing that, like, when I'm going to talk more and more about, like, what's really happening here, what really is the barrier, the outcome is just showing as meal planning, right? It's just showing this lack, but really there's something deeper going on. And for most of us, we haven't taken the time to connect those dots or to go down that far to go, oh, here's the core, here's the root cause. Now I can kind of revert and go about this in a completely different way than I've been trying to do and forcing myself to do XYZ. So, with this, being a dietitian, it is very easy for me to help people come up with all sorts of recipe ideas, whether that is a meal delivery, whether that is kind of a hybrid approach of like, okay, you can make these meals, or maybe you can get this here, and then you can go out to eat X amount of times, aim for these kind of foods, ask for a side of this, not that, just all those alterations, but to still make life so enjoyable, hitting the health targets. Like, I can do that for anyone. Like, yep, I can do it. Now, what I have learned is that I don't enjoy it. I've never enjoyed putting a meal plan together for somebody. What I love to do is when somebody wants to work in collaboration and say, okay, I could do this part of it. Can you just help me kind of connect the dots? Absolutely. But if somebody says, I want you to make a meal plan for every meal I need to have for the next week, the next month, the whatever, no, hard pass, hard pass. Now, in previous life, that was a part of my job, was to create some form or another meal plans. So I really burned out on that quick. Like, literally, it's the thing that I enjoyed the least out of every task in my dietetic career and currently. Like, it's meal bottom of the list. No joy. So I realized, okay, I can give people resources, and I have a lot of them. I have a wide variety of them, right? Like, that is where I shine. That is my skill set. But if somebody is just wanting straight up meal plan, I do not thrive. I do not thrive. Now there are dietitians, nutritionists, healthcare practitioners who are amazing at it. Okay. So I'm not saying there isn't a place for that, but ugh, do I even want to go down this rabbit hole? See, this is where I need to watch myself with what directions I'm going to go. One of the main reasons why I uncovered, man, what is it about meal planning? Like, straight up full on meal planning for others that just drains the battery. That is such a mental load. And a big part of it is because it is highly likely that that individual will not, quote unquote, follow the plan. And so then we're getting at the real stuff here, right? Then it's like, oh, I don't enjoy it because then I get resentful. Oh, okay. Well, I can do something about this. So these are the methods that I hope you guys kind of pick up on as I share my story and kind of what I'm doing as of now around meal planning. But this is what I'm saying, like, this root cause, like, there is something deeper. And for me, I'm just using the example of meal planning because it is a constant teacher for me. Now, meal planning as a single lady, I was single for quite a bit of my adulthood, and that was easy. So easy to meal plan because honestly, you guys, I didn't have to prep a whole lot of meals. I loved leftovers. I still love leftovers. Like it was very easy to come up with, a few recipes a week. And I had my rotation for like breakfast, lunch, snack, like, it was mainly just dinner. So simple to do that. Okay. So that was not too much of a challenge. Now, the past 4 years have been in relationship with David. And this is where I'm like, oh man, there's all these other layers happening here of, you know, who the meal is for, who's cooking it, when we're getting the food, our schedules, all sorts of things. So I'm sure a lot of you can relate if you have, people in your household that you're cooking for or another loved one is cooking or preparing for. So that has added a new learning curve, a new set of variables in this experiment. And with that, a big thing, and I know I've kind of pivoted quickly here from like, okay, I don't love doing meal plans for others. And that's because I get resentful when they don't follow through it. And I just did all this work. Like the frustration is there. And as a generator, that is my not self theme. And so I would ask any of you, whatever your energy type is, to look at your not self theme, whether you're a projector and that's bitterness, whether you're a manifester and that's anger, a generator is frustration, what I just mentioned. Manifesting generators, you're either going to be anger or frustration. You'll identify with one of those. And then reflectors as disappointment. So that is something in this meal planning. If you're like, I hate meal planning. Oh my gosh, tell me all the things. Tell me your story. What are you doing now? Think about, okay, where are those moments where this not self energy comes up? Is it geared towards another person in the household that you may be feeling frustrated because you're showing up to do this, but they aren't, or you feel like you're showing up to do it and they aren't, or you make the meal and then your kiddos aren't eating it, right? Like wherever that not self is coming up, one, I want you to identify it. So I want you to, on a piece of paper, write out your not self theme, the energy it is. What is that? What is that emotion? And then again, I'm going to be real specific on meal planning here, but use whatever's coming up. Then, so for me, it'd be like, okay, frustration, not self. Where is frustration showing itself in these energetics of meal planning and prep? Friends, I can write a lot of stuff. Even today, I'm like, oh, there is frustration. There's frustration if we don't use all the food that is in our fridge in a timely, healthy, nutritious manner, right? Like nobody likes to throw food out, right? Like sure, maybe it makes your fridge a little cleaner, but you just spent a boatload of money on that item. So frustration, not using the food we have. Another frustration. One is if I prepare incorrectly in regards of, oh, I thought this meal would last us for I thought the recipe would last us for like 2 meals or 2 dinners, and it doesn't. It didn't make enough. We actually ate most of it that first meal, which I want us to eat appropriate quantities, but there is then frustration of like, oh dang, my plan. Ooh, kind of feels like it's out the window now. Like it's not going according to plan. That can throw me off. Another frustration, you make a new recipe, it doesn't taste so great. Or, you are cooking it and you're like, that is not done. And it takes another 20 minutes. Oh, I had that happen actually not that long ago, and it was real annoying, really annoying. So this is examples. Now, projectors, manifestors, if it's anger, it can be the same things, but for you, that emotion's going to feel more anger than frustration. Me, frustration, I so connect with it. Projectors, more of that bitterness, that resentment. Where is that coming up for you? Okay, so start there because then you're going to start to identify your emotion, right? You're going a layer deeper here, and it's not hard, right? This is still a simple investigation. It can take a couple of minutes. Like I already threw out 3 things that I'm like, oh, these are pretty common. Yeah, this comes up. So then with that, that is already going to allow you to like to step back and kind of start to get more of a bird's eye view of your patterning, your conditioning, the themes that are happening here that you feel like you're just, keep hitting a wall with meal planning. Okay. So with that, there's these level of frustration. So one part, real time right now, I still experience those frustrations, but I now have way more awareness of these frustrations. So as I was cooking this like meatloaf that was a new recipe and literally took 20, maybe even 30 minutes longer to cook through than the instructions said. When it happened, I was just like, you know what? This happens. This is a new recipe. It's super nutritious for us. Like it's going to be delicious. That's okay. It's not, I gotta loosen the grip on the control. Like, okay, it's not all going to be done at the time I thought it was going to be. It's not the end of the world. We're still getting nutritious food. So I can do these reframes more in real time than just letting it fester, right? Just letting it be this negative. Oh, here's another reason. So you have the power to choose there. And so that awareness piece is really, really important for me. Also, something I've really been leaning into I would say the last couple months is when I do meal plan, I stick with it. And that feels really good. So wherever can be those small wins, really love up on that and really anchor into that. And that could even be if there's a new recipe you tried and you're like, everyone in the family loved it. Loved it. It was amazing. It was great. It was easy. Only took so many ingredients, only took so long. We all ate it. Yay. That is a win. That's not even a small win. Like that's just straight up a win. And so what I recommend, wherever you save your recipes, save the recipe and have it at least twice a month, right? Like make it easier for yourself as you're getting these wins and you will continue to build that momentum. Okay, so that's what I do when like a quote unquote negative pops up. I bring in that awareness and the reframe. And then also when there is a win of either the whole week, went grocery shopping, we used all the food. We used all the food. Yay. Or had an amazing recipe that turned out so good. It's a keeper. Awesome. Or another win that's really common for me is I know in my day, my days can really fluctuate with hours and meetings and appointments and timeframes. But I know on the evenings that I need to make a full meal, there's no leftovers. I know that when I am done with like work or appointments by 5 for our schedule, that hour of time to then have dinner, 6:30 is so amazing. It is so amazing. So that's also been a touch point for me to know, wrap up by 5. And then I have to me, it feels like ample time, even though it's still this, it's still the time that's needed for the recipe versus starting at 5 versus starting at 6. My energy feels so much grounded, so much more rooted when I'm cutting the veggies, prepping the things, cooking the dinner. It is very, very different. So that is something I've really been leaning in on. Okay, like I can finish my work, I can finish my tasks by 5. And then I'm prioritizing making food. So it's these little things that can be super helpful. Again, to pay attention to. You got to bring that awareness in. And it's also the reality of like, I also don't want to cook a full on meal every night. I love having leftovers in one way or another. And then if there's like, another veggie or starch or I mean, like whatever the other items are that we're having there, well, sure, I can prep that. And that can take, 10 minutes, easy. But if there's like protein source, that main, caloric item every night, like, nope, that does not work for me. So it's getting really honest with yourself on what's going to work in the season of life you're in. And then really loving up those wins when it is happening, when it is working. when you have had tasty food. I mean, like all those things. Oh, also a win. Okay, friends, also a win is when you make a recipe. Yes, it turns out, but the win is when there's not that many dishes. Okay, if you guys, I'll throw out a couple of recommendations. If you guys do not follow Rachel's Good Eats, Rachel DeVoe on Instagram, it's Rachel's Good Eats is her handle, but you can also just Google Rachel DeVoe. She actually now has a brand new cookbook, but she lives in Seattle and she's a dietitian and her recipes are amazing, but she has a one skillet, I want to say it's enchilada. I think that's the title. Look it up on Pinterest, Google. You will find it right away. And I love it because it literally is a one dish, a one pan, well, one dish. It, yeah, you do it on the stovetop. And I love it. And it's got all sorts of veggies. You can choose your protein. Like it's so easy. It's a great leftover. It's a great lunch. So again, that is in my rotation. That is like, if I can't think of something, one skillet enchilada. That's what we're having. Okay, so that's what I mean. Like there's less dishes, win. Win, win, win. Tasty, also win. I did it. We used all the food, wins. Okay, so find those little wins and then go to your not self, that emotion. When is it coming up? Really dive into that. Okay, this is when it's coming up. And then ask yourself why. And you'll be so, maybe you won't be surprised, but it'll be so opening to then go, whoa, this is connected to something that's so different than meal planning. And I haven't been honoring that in myself, right? Like that is a big key, especially if you got full schedule, you got a lot of responsibilities and commitments and this, that, and the other. Like meal planning may not be one of your top priorities. So it's hard to see those wins. And then it's also hard to give yourself that time to really investigate where that struggle is. Now, one thing I do want to note is there are definitely aspects within your human design energetics that can kind of unlock more specifically areas that you can like focus on, that you can bring awareness to. One aspect that we have not brought up at all, I think, in the podcast are variables, the four variables, the four arrows, four transformations. It's called all of those things, depending on just who you're listening to. And this is a deeper aspect of the chart. It's not something I recommend people, take a look at right away. But within these four arrows, you can really see like how it's called your primary health system and then your environment. It's very much connected to your body. So the PHS, or the primary health system, gets at digestion, gets at how you digest food, digest life, digest information. So for me, the term mine is actually called nervous touch. It's an odd name, but it really means like I can be on the go and eating and moving and like, bebopping around. And when I saw that, I actually thought that was what the one I would be out of the like combinations you can have. Because I really connected with it. Like I am absolutely someone who does not need to be sitting in silence at a dinner table, only simply focusing on chewing my food. I just don't. So that is an area that can be really expansive for people to see what their PHS is. There's like a wide variety. And also environment, which is really cool to look at as well. Because that could be the environment which you're eating in, the environment when you feel most productive, most aligned, your energy is flowing. So I will just throw that out, that's a whole other level you can go out in your human design. And if you want to dive into yours, reach out to either Jenna or myself or at While You Wait podcast, and we can let you know the services we provide on that, because that definitely is a very tailored experience to learn about your variables. But knowing mine's nervous touch has been really important for me. And then also knowing like David's is important to know like how we digest life. Now, another aspect that we brought up on the last podcast with the centers is knowing I have an open will center and like this quote unquote like goal setting. It's not really like that doesn't really work for me. So if you also have an open or undefined will center and you're like just banging your head against the wall to meal plan, one, give yourself a lot of grace and a lot of love and compassion, because those who, are doing the macro tracking are, in the app doing this, doing that, and like they're on target, they're, living life that way, like it's highly likely that's not going to work for you. It doesn't work for me. I can do it for periods of time if there's a really important and significant reason for doing so, but to do it for fun, not really my jam. So knowing that about myself, I'm like, okay, my structure is really going to be fluid. It could be fluid at different seasons of life. It could be fluid as I'm experimenting with it. But like I can come back to these foundations that I know work for me and lean in on that and know like a quote unquote smart goal is not going to light me up. Is not going to get my sacral going and being like, yeah, that's what we need. That's the next step. So that is also something. Give yourself a lot of grace if you have an open or undefined will, because this structure is likely not lighting you up. It's likely not in alignment to really how your energy is used on a day-to-day basis. There's some other aspects I could probably highlight within the human design energetic sphere. But again, if you want to dive into that specifically, just reach out to us and we can happily tell you how you can work with one of us to like get really to see your own energetics. Okay, I want to wrap up here. I feel like this has been very rambly because it's just such an important topic. Okay, I want to transition here this last point of like the inspired action that I'm taking now. So for me, I've been in a rut of meal planning. And I was really sitting in like the negative of it. I was not connecting it to my not self frustration. I was not allowing myself to see the wins, and when the positive aspects came, like I was in a place where I would make a meal and have a moment of being proud of myself. But then right when the meal was done would be like, well, why aren't you doing this more? Really, you can only do it one night. Like I had a very, the negative self-talk. This is like it has been a very strong area for me, that it comes out. So with that, I just sat with that negative self-talk and I was like, you know what? We can turn this into support. I get to choose my thoughts. I get to choose my action. I get to choose my behavior. And that's really empowering. And it's like, real adultness. It's real, what's the right word, friends? Like, that means a very present, focused, aligned behavior constantly, right? Like this isn't a do it once and it's good to go. It's not. And I don't want to sugarcoat it that way. So with that, I sat with that and I was like, you know what? I do want to keep choosing myself. I do want to keep choosing my health. I want to keep choosing our health in this household. And I know a way to do that is through food. A really significant way to do that is through food. Okay. And I just let that sit. This is coming back to neutrality. I'm not forcing myself to put a positive or negative spin to it. When my negative self-talk, that lower self-worth shows up, I can love on it. I can say, okay, I see you coming up. Usually what I mentally say to myself, I just go, okay, mind, I know you're trying to keep me comfortable right now, but this is not the time for comfort. I appreciate you're here. I know why you're here. And I'm now going to choose this. I know that's going to sound wacko, right? That's very, very woo. But man, does that make a difference, because like my mind's always going, always going. And I just say, thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for protecting me in the way you know how. I'm going to choose something different. Sometimes I journal about it, and other times I just mentally take a breath and I'm just like, thank you, mind. And now I choose this. So give it a whirl. Just see. Again, what that's allowing me to do is giving myself that moment of awareness, and I stop that negative thought right in its track. Or it may go on for a bit and then I'll go, oh, hello, coming back online. Wasn't paying attention to that one. Like, that's a thought. I get to change that. So that is what I've really been focusing on the last couple of months, is the negative shame that I've allowed myself to get in the hole of for meal planning. And with the like, well, you're a dietitian. You should know what to eat. You should be an amazing cook and meal planner and have the most vibrant, gorgeous food all day, every day. Now, if you're very astute, you've noticed I just use the word should. If the word should is coming up in your narrative, in your self talk, there's likely conditioning around there. So I've just been letting that go. Like, yes, I have this education and I have this experience, and I can use that for myself and for others in my community and network. And I don't need to should all over myself. That's not supportive. So giving yourself that grace, giving yourself that kind of encouragement and that awareness can really shift. So that's been a big pillar. And then also, friends, this has been another thing. I've also realized I need a couple hours at some point in the week or weekend to meal plan for the next week. This whole notion of like, oh, you can do it in 5 minutes. I'm sure people can. I am not one of those people. So that has also been a reality that I've loosened that grip of comparing myself to someone else to say, you know what? I need to give myself 2 hours. If it doesn't take 2 hours, cool. I probably will still look at more recipes. But if it does, then I'm actually allowing myself that time to do it because this is a priority for me. So there is that. And that has been, it just sounds so silly to say like, oh, I'm scheduling in 2 hours, but I am, because that's how long it takes. Because sometimes I find the recipes and I'm like, cool, yes, 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 that sounds good. That sounds good. Like, and then I'll look at like the time frame. Okay, well, how long would this take to make? Is that going to work for my schedule next week? And then once I have that, I make a grocery list and I feel on top of the world. I love it so much. I'm like, we're going to go grocery shopping. I got the list. Let's do it. So good. So that I would also say for yourself, give yourself time, whether that is, if you're a mama with all the kids and all the activities, is it a play date where, they're either going over to a neighbor's or a friend's, and you are either get time home alone, or you just drop them off and you go to a coffee shop, or maybe you're even at the house and you and the other mom, you both are doing it together. Again, that's going to depend on what works for you and your energy. Some people really like that collaboration. For me, I'm like, I just need to go on Pinterest and search XYZ for what I'm looking for. Or if I like, ooh, I remember I have a recipe here that I want that. That is very simple for me. And I prefer to actually first do it myself, and then I'll pass it by David to be like, hey, how's this look for the week? Are you wanting anything else? That sort of thing. So just think about that. There are ways you can fit it in no matter what your schedule is when it becomes an actual priority. I know that's a little tough love, but that could be what you need to hear to really start to make some moves. Okay. What else do I want to say before I wrap this up? Giving myself that time to do it, making the list. You know what the last thing I'm going to say is? This probably isn't the last thing. Who are we joking? But another thing I want to say is another big win that we're noticing as we're like coming up with the recipes, doing the grocery shopping, is on the day we do our grocery shopping for the week, we do not cook that night. So we either have leftovers or we're going to also like pick something up and eat it at home. That is so nice. So if you have that luxury of doing something like that, or if it's like, frozen pizza or, just that simple thing that it's like, pop it in the air fryer or pop it in the oven. That's what we're doing for the day, that we're going to the store because that already takes up time. Like, and we got to put it away. We got to organize it. You may be somebody who you like to like cut your vegetables, for that week and then cook them later, whatever your routine is. I love not having to cook that evening. That has also been a major win. And also just like a relief, right? Like, okay, task at hand today, grocery shopping. Cool. Now then tomorrow, I will cook dinner. Great. So look at those things and see what, one, what could just be a practical thing to experiment with. But then two, I do encourage you to dig a little deeper and sit with, bring the awareness to, why is this pattern a pattern for you? What is at the root of it? And it may surprise you, but then it also will highly likely be very freeing because now you have the awareness of these triggers, of these patterns, and you get to choose what you're going to do with it, how it's going to alter. And there's a lot of power in that. There can be overwhelm as well. And if that's the case, please, please, please reach out to us because we can absolutely support you in that journey. But I think that's a good stopping place. The other area I was going to bring up, but I've just been chatty Cathy by myself today, is I've also gotten very, very honest with myself on what my priorities are, because that has been something I think I have portrayed, that my health is a priority. But then when I sat with the actions and how I'm utilizing my energy, my health has not been a priority. So like my ego, my mind, that side of it, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm healthy. I'm a dietitian. I'm a clinical exercise physiologist. Like, oh yeah, I know health. And like, I'm tiny, I'm vibrant, I'm bubbly, I'm energetic, right? Like I can portray that archetype. I can put on that suit and play that game. And in relative terms, I am healthy. I am absolutely healthy. But when I sit with myself and I'm like, okay, but are you healthy? Are you prioritizing your health? That prioritizing of health was a very, like, even right now saying that, my sacral's like, it got real tight, because I'm not there yet. I'm not there of the highest version of myself in health, in vitality that I know is possible in this reality. And I'm not saying that is like a biohacker. I don't even know. Like, no, just real life. There is more vitality for me to experience. And I know I know the next step to do that. But I haven't sat with myself to be real and honest of, yeah, you may know these things, but we still need to sit with, why isn't it being integrated into your daily life? And that's been a big shift. And that's, friends, literally just been the past 2 months. So if you want me to go more into like the priorities and like getting real with your priorities in life, not just for health, but in life, Jenna and I can riff on that at any time because it's a big one and one I assess a lot with myself. That's actually what I go to first. If my actions aren't aligning to the vision I have for myself, it's simply, in my view, priorities off. Okay, well, why is that? And then I take that inspired action and bring that awareness to it. So I'll leave it there, friends. This was all over the place. Jenna, I need your projectorness to guide me. Was this too open-ended? I hope it was helpful. I feel like you definitely got some practical tips. You had my dietitian hat on from time to time. But I'll also keep you guys posted. Right now I'm very fluid this next week for what we're eating, but we just went to the store and we have some food, and we've also realized this week we will eat out more than normal. And to me, that's still meal planning. Like, I still know, okay, we know where we want to go because we're going to be moving out of the area. So we want to eat at some places for another time before we head out. And then that means less food we have to cook. We can pack up our all of our kitchen items, and that's fine. That is meal planning this week for us. Okay. Love you guys so much. Please, please, please let me know more specifics on this topic. I'll keep you posted on my journey and priorities and how that's coming up in life. But I hope this has given you some tools, some inspiration, some awareness, and keep us posted. Again, follow us on Instagram at While You Wait Podcast. We are also on YouTube, While You Wait Podcast. You can search for us there and see these episodes as video form. And you can follow me at I Am Designed for More. And then Jenna is at Jenna Energy. But just reach out. Let us know how you guys are doing. Thank you so much for being here and listening to the end. And I literally would love to love to know how you're doing with meal planning and if this was supportive for you and what other questions or insights you may have. Thanks so much, everyone. Have a lovely rest of your day.